Today we will hear from candidates who are seeking to lead this city. And we are so grateful for taking this step. And we are very interested in their ideas and in their vision, and especially in their moral clarity and commitment to fight against authoritarianism. So this will be an interesting conversation. I want to emphasize we have translation. So for people who are monolingual Spanish speakers, our interpreters are here, and they're here to make sure that you can access all the content. And we're so grateful that we have some of our leaders here. We say Assembly Member Marcela Mitaines, Assembly Member Joanne Simon here, and more will join us later. And with that, please help me welcome the one and only, my co-director, Jasmine Gripper.
Welcome, and thank you, Ana Maria. I'm Jasmine Gripper, co-director of the New York State Working Families Party. And we are here to hear from the candidates who are seeking your trust, and more importantly, they're seeking your vote. The New York primary is just 94 days away. And here in New York, we are extremely lucky that we have a real third party that fights for working class people, and not the billionaires and the big corporations. The Working Families Party was proudly born in New York, and has long supported candidates and elected officials who stand up for the multiracial working class. When you think of leaders like Tish James, our Attorney General, when you think of our public advocate, Jumaane Williams, when you think about our congressional member, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all are champions for the Working Families Party and champions for the people. In this moment, like Ana Maria said, of rising authoritarian threats coming from the White House, local government is more important now than ever before. We need leaders who are trusted, steady, have moral clarity, and are effective. Leaders that will deliver for working families an alternative than Trump's chaos and fear. Over the next few weeks, the Working Families Party will announce an endorsement. What we're going to initially announce is an endorsement of a slate of candidates. We are going to lean in and leverage ranked choice voting. We looked at we have studied the results from the last mayoral election, and we realized this is our chance to work together to propel our candidate to victory using ranked choice voting. New Yorkers know that we do not have to replace one scandal-ridden politician unwilling to stand up with Trump with another politician with the same profile. We can and we must do better. Today, we are glad to have our program moderated by one of the greats. Academic, frequent political commenter, and a real voice of clarity for a moment that feels so chaotic, Dr. Christina Greer. Dr. Greer is an associate professor of political science at Fordham University, focused on American politics, campaigns and elections, and public opinion. She is the author of Black Ethnics, Race, Immigration, and the Pursuit of the American Dream, How to Build a Democracy from Fannie Lou Hamer to Barbara Jordan to Stacey Abrams, and co-editor of Black Ethics and Transition, Immigration, Suburbanization, and Gentrification. Dr. Greer writes a weekly column for the Amsterdam News and is a frequent political commentator on several media outlets, and is co-host of the podcast FAQ NYC. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Christina Greer, the moderator of today's forum.
Good afternoon. I just want to thank Jasmine and Ana Maria and Don for having the vision to put this together, and I want to thank all of you for being here on a beautiful Saturday and investing in your democracy. So with that, we'll get started on today's mayoral forum titled, Whose City Is It? I would argue that it's ours, and it's our responsibility to choose the next leader for this great city. The fundamental question we're asking ourselves as we get closer to the June primary is, where do we go from here and who should lead us? In the conversations I've been a part of, as it relates to the mayor's race in 2025, and many of the candidates today have joined us on FAQ NYC to talk about this, one thing is very clear. Millions of people in our city are struggling. Folks are making decisions every day between healthcare costs, food, between backpacks for their kids, between riding the subway fares, between staying in New York City or actually leaving the city. And of course, it's the working class in our city who bear the brunt of a mounting affordability crisis that started long, long ago. So while today's conversation is one of many happening in the weeks to come, we know the primary date is what? Right, I'm a professor, you know you have a pop quiz. So here's the reality. The working class needs someone to look to and to help them lead. They need someone to lead. They need someone to remind us that City Hall has their back, and that's what today's conversation is all about, helping us figure out whose city it is and who will be our next leader. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by 7 candidates seeking your vote for New York City Mayor. So to foster some good conversation, we're breaking them up into 2 panels with a lightning round in between, my favorite. Those who have joined us on FAQ know that I love a lightning round. With that, I'd like to introduce our first 3 panelists, and after I tell you who they are, please help me welcome them to the stage. And you can read a lot about them on their respective websites, which I'm sure they'll mention, but my intros will be brief just so we can get to the getting and actually get some questions. So, today we're joined by New York State Senator, who also happens to be my state senator, Zellnor Myrie. You can applaud. Hi there. Senator Myrie was elected to the New York State Senate in 2018 and serves as the chair of the Senate's Elections Committee. He ushered in major reforms to protect tenants across the state and expanded access to the ballot in New York. Senator Myrie represents the 20th District in Brooklyn, which includes Crown Heights, the best, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, Kensington, Park Slope, and Sunset Park. Thank you, Senator Myrie, for joining. Next, we're joined by New York State Senator Jessica Ramos. Come on up. Senator Ramos serves in the New York State Senate representing the 13th District in Queens, which includes Jackson Heights, Elmhurst, East Elmhurst, Astoria, and Woodside. Senator Ramos hails from Queens and serves as chair of the Senate's all-powerful Labor Committee. Senator Ramos has a long history of public service and will not let you forget that she rides the New York City subway every day. And finally, for our first panel, we're joined by former New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. Mr. Stringer has had a long history of service to New York, first serving in the New York State Assembly, then as Manhattan Borough President. During his 8 years as Comptroller, Mr. Stringer held the previous administration accountable and stewarded New York City's pension fund, ensuring that the city's pocketbook aligned with its values. So please help me welcome all 3 candidates to the stage. And I will say, I've moderated a lot of events. I've never worn sneakers. But since all the candidates had on sneakers, I figured I should just be in alignment. And it's Saturday, and it's the Working Families Party, so if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? So let's get started. We've got 40 minutes. As far as Q&A, so I'm going to ask our esteemed representatives to please be a little brief in some of your responses. We have 3 big questions to get through, but I do want to make sure we have time for your questions. And so throughout our conversation, folks from the Working Families Party will be passing around note cards. So if you could bring together some concise questions that you'd like asked. Also, as I tell my students, if I can't read it, it's wrong, right? So let's work on our handwriting to make sure I can read it so we can actually get these questions together. Okay, so I'm gonna start immediately to my left. Senator, I'll start with you, and then the second question, I'll start with you, Senator Ramos, and the third question, I'll start with you, Mr. Stringer. So the first question, 1 in 4 New Yorkers can't afford basic essentials. The rate of people experiencing poverty in New York City is double the national average. Why should working class New Yorkers trust you to lead at this moment? And I'll start with you, Senator Myrie.
Thank you, Dr. Greer. Thank you to WFP, the nation. Shout out to Brick. Thank you for always being a gracious host for community events. I'm born and raised in this city, and I remember waking up some mornings and not having the lights on. And my mom, as hard as she worked, being a little ashamed and embarrassed. I remember walking home and seeing an eviction notice on the door and having to go to housing court with my mom to help stave off that eviction. So when we talk about working class people in this city, when we talk about what we're gonna do to help lift people up, I don't talk about that as a political candidate. This is where I'm from. This is how I've grown up. This is what I've been fighting for in the state legislature. So it is really important in this moment that we don't just have candidates that are giving us lip service, but people who are prepared to stand up and deliver results. I have put out an ambitious housing plan to strike at the heart of our affordability crisis, to say everyone should have a place to stay in this city and a home that they can afford and a path for success. But we also have childcare that is wholly unaffordable. Pre-K and 3K that ends at 2:30 p.m., who gets off at 2:30 p.m.? We have to extend that to 6 p.m., and I wouldn't be sitting here before you today if I was not a part of an after-school program. That is what made me who I am. It was a place where my mom knew she had peace of mind, she could keep me off the streets, but I could flourish and become exactly who I've been intended to be. Every single student, every single young person in the city should have that opportunity. I want to provide after school for all as the next mayor. And when we talk about public safety, we need an all of the above approach. Every single summer, our young people apply to work for summer youth employment. That was my first job in this city. And tens of thousands of them end up on the waiting list because we don't have enough seats for them. I want to add 50 more thousand seats to SYEP, make it universal for all, and help them get on the path to success.
Thank you. Senator Ramos, would you like the question once again?
I think I got it.
Okay.
Buenas tardes. I'm Jessica Ramos from Queens, and I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you to Brick for hosting us. You know, that 1 in 4 statistic should be as consequential as Jacob Riis's book of How the Other Half Lives, because truly that Robin Hood Foundation report really outlined how much New Yorkers are truly struggling. And fighting poverty has been my life's work. I actually didn't know that I would end up becoming an elected official myself, but being the daughter of immigrants, being the daughter of a union member, and seeing what that difference is only lit a fire in my belly to want to be a part of government to deliver that for more New Yorkers. And I'm proud of my 20 years in public service. I started out as a city council staffer during the Bloomberg administration. I was a member of the de Blasio administration, helped deliver on universal pre-K for our city, and I've now spent nearly 7 years in the state Senate as chair of the Labor Committee, where I've raised the minimum wage and tied it to inflation for the first time in the history of New York State. I've expanded eligibility deeply for child care subsidies, and I have fought to make sure that every single housing plan that is to come from state government and city government actually includes labor standards with prevailing wages for people so that they're protected. And I talk about affordability because I've lived it. I've lived this struggle. I don't just talk about it. Growing up middle class, working class in this city has been very difficult. And even though I'm a state senator, I feel like I'm still struggling to get my family above water and be able to own a home in New York City. This is why my affordable housing plan is about modest equity home ownership and making sure that I'm building on the record that I have been putting forth in the Senate to now, as an executive, be able to implement the actual plans that we need to get New York to have a strong and sustainable middle class again. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Stringer, why should working class New Yorkers trust you to lead at this moment?
Well, it's a very powerful question. I'm really glad to be here. You know, I'm going to tell a story that I never told about my life, partly because I've always been a little embarrassed by it. But as many of you may know, I come from a political family from Washington Heights. My cousin was Bella Abzug. I spent my early years campaigning for Bella. And then my own mom ran for city council in Washington Heights as a single parent. And she had a very rough time of it. She won the first time, lost the second time. But I remember how fascinated I was and excited when she won that night. And the next day, she had to confront the reality of our family as a single parent when Con Ed came and shut off the lights of the new councilwoman's house. And I remember how ashamed she felt, even though she had had this tremendous milestone. We all come from a place when you're a New Yorker where tragedy and the ability to sort of move your family forward is on the front burner. And for those of us who've had to experience it, you also have to understand how we have to change it. This city has been very much for the wealthy, with enclaves for the very poor and nothing in between. We've had mayor after mayor not understand that while you can be aspirational, you also have to experience actually how to govern and get things done. And that's why I'm running for mayor, because I want to take not just my life experience, but my political experience and put it to work for New Yorkers who need it more than ever. One example is my housing plan. I started out as a Mitchell-Lama housing activist. I believe the Mitchell-Lama housing program is one of the best housing programs literally in the world. It's housing for 400,000 people, and it's 100,000 units. I want to build Mitchell-Lama 2.0. Here's how I'm specifically going. That's right, give it up to Mitchell-Lama for those of you who know. But here's the plan, and this is why I want to be mayor. We have 1,000 vacant lots in this city, 1,000. We own them. We, the people, own these lots, city-owned property. Why can't we give those lots to the people, to not-for-profit organizations, for people who understand how to build the next generation of affordable housing? If we do this, we will bid, check this out, we will build low-income housing, remember that word? And affordable housing. And I will do it in my first term.
Great, thank you so much. So we're going to move on to the second big question. I think this is on the minds of a lot of voters, especially voters in this room. And Senator Ramos, I'm going to start with you and then go to you, Mr. Stringer, and with you, Senator Myrie. How will you help New York City stand up to Donald Trump? Point blank.
Thank you for that question. Standing up to Donald Trump is going to define our movement when years from now our children and grandchildren look into the history books. They should see us out there standing up to the tyranny that is being imposed on us, and that has now begun to center people of color, women, including transgender people, and the like, people with disabilities. They are looking to divide us and fracture us in every single way. And while we want to make sure that we are supporting the movement in our streets, we also need someone that is in the room making change happen. And I'm actually proud to say and share that this coming week I will be introducing new legislation in order to get us ready to withhold our federal taxes as New Yorkers from the Trump administration. It can't just be rhetoric. It can't just be rhetoric. We're going to ask the state comptroller to tabulate exactly how much money we receive in federal funding to the last cent, so that we are able to make sure that we are reappropriating that money into the different areas and all of the different holes that we will have to fill ourselves. We should not forget that we are a donor city and a donor state, and we should put our money where our mouth is. They're gonna play chess. They've been thinking they've been winning all along. Well, we have to be fearless in the pursuit and the protection of our own freedom and making sure that our social justice and our economic equity is undeterred by the intentions of the bigots that comprise his administration. We have to tell them what's what, using the sword as both a shield, the law as a shield, but also as a sword, because we can't just play defense, we have to be ready to play offense too, to file lawsuits where possible, and to make sure that our taxes are going to better healthcare outcomes, better education, and better job opportunities for our communities.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, how will you help New York City stand up to Donald Trump?
How am I going to top that? My God. Well done, Jessica. Look, let me give you my perspective. Couple things we have to do, the next mayor is going to have to do, a little different than legislating. First, we're going to have to run an excellent government. We're going to have to look at every agency. We're going to have to look at where the attack is coming from. Perfect example is the $80 million that Trump grabbed in the middle of the night. You know, a lot of the elected officials were saying, I found out that Trump took $80 million. Well, congratulations. Where were you when the banks were giving him the money? Did you have an early warning system? No. Did you call the banks in and say, if you want our deposits, we are not going to let them just take our money? No. Did you turn around and recognize that budget codes, this is controller speak, you got city money, federal money, state money, have you separated out all that federal money that's in jeopardy? No. The next mayor has to come in and rearrange the deck on this Titanic and simply hold this president accountable. This is what I would do. I need the legislature to put away $500 million in state money and the city council to put $500 million in city money, $1 billion, so that when they grab our money, we can replenish money for immigrant rights, for education, for children, for homelessness, because we got to get to the midterms. That's what I would do as mayor with Trump. Just so you know what I've done, I was in the first Trump movie. I was controller. And you know what I did? I didn't give a damn what he was thinking. I divested $4 billion from fossil fuel. I divested money from the gun manufacturers. I divested the money from private prisons. They all threatened to sue me left and right. But let me tell you something. I am not a minimalist. I go into offices and we upend things. We change things. And that's what the next mayor has to do, bringing in a team of people in these agencies that are the best and the brightest who are going to be able to understand how we beat them back. And I'm prepared to do that.
Thank you. Senator Myrie, how will you stand up to Donald Trump?
Okay, I'm going to literally stand up for this question. Because this is the most important question that you're going to ask for the entire day. You're going to hear a lot about our plans and our presentations. In this moment, it is about power. Power. They are using it effectively to attack what makes this city great. I had a constituent ask me yesterday, will my black son grow up in a segregated city and country? And what are you going to do about it? We don't want to hear that you got a nice PowerPoint. We don't want to hear that you're going to step up in a press conference. They are using the power. And let me talk to you about power, because I'm a lawyer. The 10th Amendment of our Constitution says this, that the powers not explicitly given to the federal government belong to the states or the people. The people. That's where the power is, according to the Constitution. You know who the people are? You, me, your mother, your grandmother, your rabbi, your imam, your barber, your bus driver, your teacher, your bodega guy, your nail tech. That's New York City. The people. So I plan to use that 10th Amendment to great effect. The power belongs to us. You want to tell us we can't put our newest New Yorkers to work? We will do it. Work NYC. We will make it happen. If you had a problem, see you in court. You want to snatch our money from our public housing. You want to take literally food off the table of our children and our older adults. You want to get our Title I schools shut down. We will step up. But we need the people to do it. So this is our moment. We can't elect the people of the past who are unwilling to stand up in our present. We cannot. We must stand in this moment. And I look forward to doing it shoulder to shoulder with you as the next mayor of this city.
Thank you. So this is our last question before we're going to take questions from the audience. So please, if you all still have more questions, don't be shy. Sasha's coming around with note cards for you all. So Scott, or Mr. Stringer, Controller Stringer.
Call me Scott. I've been on FAQ.
Right, exactly. Tell us about your first 100 days. How will working class New Yorkers know you've got their backs as soon as you get into office?
So, Professor, actually, I think that there are two moments in an executive's opportunity, and I think it comes at 100 days and 6 months. So your question is 100 days. I'm going to bring in the best and the brightest people into this government, the likes you've never seen. That's what I did as controller and Manhattan Borough President. That's why we're able to do everything. Once we are in place in those few 30-day period, We are going to immediately work to enable my housing plan, which is the Mitchell-Lama 2.0. We're going to work with our state legislatures and to fund our tri-share child care plan. We're going to make sure that we baseline 3K and pre-K. We end this stupid budget game between the city council and the mayor's office. Second, we're going to make sure that we work collaboratively. We all share very much of an extended school day, and after school, we're going to work collaboratively to do this. But one of the things that I understand how to do is govern. And the success I've had as Manhattan Borough President, working to build affordable housing, the success I had during my time as controller also building affordable housing, was knowing what I don't know. This is terrible to say, right? So I have to admit to you, there's not, politicians don't know everything. I don't know if you figured this out. And the people who are successful at governing are the people who know how to identify talent, identify diverse talent, understanding the agencies. Imagine having a mayor who actually audited NYCHA 19 times. I know where the bodies are buried. It's not the tenants, it's management, right? I understand that when you look at OEM and other places, and you look at the climate change hotspots in our agencies, I can clean that up. Lastly, we need a mayor who has a zero tolerance for corruption. The rascals have to leave. That was Mayor Breslin's campaign, by the way. Throw the rascals out, remember? And we have to do the same. We can no longer allow this minimalist approach that is basically steal what you can while you can. My office, if you say one thing about what I've done in my career, people will say this, on the right, on the left, in the middle, the ones who like me, the ones who are not as impressed with me. They will say, this guy runs a great office with high-quality people. That's the key to building our aspirational city.
Senator Myrie, tell us about your first 100 days.
We have a very ambitious housing plan that includes the creation of more units, but also the preservation of hundreds of thousands of affordable units. And so within our first 100 days, you are going to see our plan to expand the right to counsel program so that no tenant is facing eviction without assistance from this city. I also want to expand it to homeowners who are facing foreclosure and deed theft, and so you will see us effectuating that as well. I want an interagency approach when we deal with housing. I want to be held accountable. Many of you are familiar with CompStat, which shows us our public safety stats. I want the same for housing. And I want people to be able to see me on the street and say, Mr. Mayor, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z on housing. Here's what the numbers in the public website says. Are you doing the job? I also, as many of us know, want to clear many, many, many more crimes in this city. And what I mean by clear is solve them. Not just work on reacting to them, but solving them. 4% of the city's blocks are responsible for over 90% of our gun violence. That is a choice that we have made as a city and a government, that some people are going to be okay with it and others are not. I want to set up a clear 100% clearance rate for our shootings, an interagency task force that has all of our stakeholders at the table to ensure that every day we are working to bring shootings down and give people vindication in these communities. It is really, really important that from day one, people are clear about what our priorities are. And for childcare and after school, my hope is that we can extend pre-K and 3K to 6 p.m. within our first term. We're going to get to work on that within the first 100 days.
Thank you. And Senator Ramos, your first 100 days.
Well, on day one, I want to call for a mental health state of emergency for the city of New York. We must reopen the healthcare facilities, mental health care facilities that former Governor Cuomo closed over a decade ago. Do not believe him when he tells you that he can keep you safe when he is in fact the person who put us in this place, where the MTA has become the de facto mental health facility with people who are displaying erratic and unpredictable behavior, which contributes to the perception that there's high crime, when in fact we should be getting them the services they need before they hurt themselves or hurt other people. There is nothing progressive or compassionate about waiting for someone to have to plead guilty in order for them to access the treatment and the medication that they need to live full lives. That is every New Yorker's right. By day 30, I want to have a fully staffed administration. I have been critical of past administrations slowing down their transition and not having the key people in place to actually be delivering for New Yorkers every day. Because if you think, I'd take office in January of 2026, we have to be ready to pick up snow. We have to be ready to make sure we're picking up the garbage better than we are right now, hopefully with a full composting system, right? We need to make sure we're getting ready to fill all the potholes that Eric Adams has left open. The city looks like Swiss cheese. It's not right. We pay taxpayer dollars and we're happy to pay our taxes, but what people expect in return is the effective delivery of services, and that's how we get people to believe that good government is possible and that progressives can govern. This is what this race is about. Not just bold ideas, but actually proving that we can enact them and we know how to put the systems together to actually give us a future that is prosperous for ourselves and our families. By day 90, we have to have already started to fly the plane on universal childcare and building out that system that we need in order to support our parents, our childcare workers, and our babies, because if we get every generation of children correct, every generation of New Yorkers will only be safer than the last.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So keep in mind, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just receiving the question, so if your question was not chosen, it's not because of me. And I'm sure there are lots of duplicates, and we're going to try and get as much as we can, but I also want to give you all time to have some closing statements for our guests. So, put on some glasses. Solid handwriting. Please provide your evaluation of Hochul's performance as governor, and will you support her in the primary next year? And coming in hot, I love it, right? And I'll start with you, Senator Myrie. So, please provide your evaluation of Hochul's performance as governor. Will you support her in the primary next year? And do you support Hochul's proposed mask ban?
Okay.
Coming in,
Right.
I love it.
Okay, these are three very softball questions. So I'll start. I think it's early to be talking about the 2026 election. As you guys may know, we are very much involved in an election happening in 90 days. And so we are going to remain focused on that. I have concerns around the current proposal on the mask ban. There, of course, have to be accommodations for New Yorkers who wear them for health purposes, which I think is the overwhelming majority. And so I think those details are going to be really important as we continue in the budget process. And there have been things that I have worked with Governor Hochul on. One of the things I'm most proud of is having the Clean Slate Act signed into law. This was a bill that had deep impact for my community, and I was proud to work with the governor to get that across the finish line. But there have been some other things I've been deeply disappointed in. And one of those things, as they were happening when she paused congestion pricing, was one of those instances where I disagreed vehemently with that decision. There have been some other things that I disagree with, whether that's downstate in my own community, where I had to fight a proposal that she put forward to close it. But I think it's important as we are going along in this budget process for us to be standing up for New Yorkers, their affordability in this need, their true public safety. And if that requires me to disagree with the governor, I will. And if it requires me to agree, then we will be agreeable.
Senator Ramos?
When I take the oath of office on January 1st, 2026, Kathy Hochul will be our governor. And it means that for that first year of my mayoralty, I want to prove to New Yorkers that a mayor and a governor can actually work together, especially as women. We have to show people that we can deliver on budgets that work. And I'm proud to say that I've been able to work with her on so many initiatives, including childcare, the minimum wage, paid sick leave, and worker protections. Fighting against wage theft is something that she, as a person who grew up working class, has been a very good listener on those issues. And so I want to be able to continue that trajectory as far as I can. In 2026, she will be up for re-election. And I'll tell you, depending on who's primarying her, if the primary is against Congressman Richie Torres, I will be supporting Kathy Hochul for governor of New York State.
And the
So
mask ban?
it may be too early to say, but I think that I want to bet on having a great working relationship that actually delivers with the governor, and really taking it from there, because New Yorkers just want to see the work done. Enough with getting the stuff done. We need to get the work done.
And the mask ban?
And the what? Oh,
Mask
and the mask
ban.
ban. I do not support a mask ban.
Okay, thank you. Scott?
For me, I think we have to sort of change things up a little bit as it relates to the relationship between the city and the state. Right now, we have a mayor captured by Donald Trump, who basically is at the servitude of the state and Kathy Hochul. And that has to change, because the mayor should be stirring the drink and putting forth an agenda and convincing our governor to side with us. And on that basis, that's who I will determine to support, somebody who is with us, who supports us. And I do agree with Jessica that we have a governor that we can work with and we should work with. We have a big agenda that's going to come through in Albany. When the new mayor gets elected, you really have a moment to work with the Assembly and the Senate, as well as the governor, on some very big ticket items for the city. You don't want to lose that. And so I'm hopeful that we're going to have a good relationship, but I also want to say to everyone in the New York State that New York City's coming, and we are the economic engine of this state. We send more money to the state than we get back. If it wasn't for us, upstate New York would be a wasteland. And let's put it out there for once and say, you need us, but you also need to help us. We have a lot of big plans: pre-K, 3K, childcare. We need an affordable housing plan. We need a mayor who has the skills to also work with the legislature, work with the governor. That's what I've been about. You know, when I was in the state assembly, we actually had things called Republicans in the state Senate. I didn't say things, I meant people in the state Senate called Republicans. And that's a skill set you develop to work for New York City. In terms of the mask ban, I am open to it, but I obviously believe in the Constitution and civil liberties, and I'm looking forward to hearing what comes out of Albany and the budget negotiations.
Great, thank you. Okay, so last question from our audience. Senator Ramos, I'll start with you. Are you willing to drop out at some point and rally behind one progressive candidate to not split the progressive vote?
Well, I think there are 3 months left between now and primary day on June 24th, and a lot can change in the last 3 months. There's a reason we don't have a Mayor Yang or a Mayor Wiener that have occupied office, and I think that as the weather gets warmer and the streets get crowded with more people, we're going to be able to engage more and more voters and hopefully turn out even more New Yorkers to vote in this election than ever before.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, this is not my first movie in this regard. I remember when Eliot Spitzer came into the to the controller's race, and we were 22 points behind with 3 weeks to go, and we stayed the course. We didn't panic, and we won the race. I know how to prosecute the case against Andrew Cuomo, and I expect to be the candidate that is most likely to take him on, and that is also about building coalition, being nice to other candidates. I always try to compliment at least one of them. You know, I was at a Zellnor Myrie table today. I went up and said, he's my second choice. The Mamdani people were there, like, oh, really, we're telling Zohran? I mean, so, but we are trying to be collaborative and thoughtful, and I'm going to try to do that as well. But I'm in this race to win. I think at the end of the day, I will be the strongest candidate against Cuomo because I've seen this movie. I know how it's going to end. He is not going to be the mayor of New York City. Trust me on this.
Senator Myrie?
Thank you. We are in it to win it, but I think all of us can agree that we cannot have a Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo taking office in January next year. So I think it's important that we continue to put our visions out to New Yorkers, that we continue to get feedback, to listen to them, to stand up for them in this moment. And, you know, a lot of us are still trying to get on the ballot right now. The green sheets are in the streets, as they say. And after that balloting process, I'm sure there will be discussions on how we can ensure that we do not have Adams or Cuomo in City Hall.
Thank you. So now I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to have a very brief closing statement. Scott, I'll start with you, and then we'll move on to you, Senator Ramos, and we'll end with you, Senator Myrie.
Well, let me just say it's really great to be here with all of you. Thank you for listening and participating. You know, whoever is going to emerge to be mayor is going to do so on the basis of coalition building and working with all of you. You're activists, you've been in the streets, you have a sense of history of the city. I promise you that we are going to make sure that this city's dignity is restored, that we can do good things. There's one thing missing in our city right now, and it will be solved by just one good election. We collectively can win, and when we win, we can govern for our children, for our parents, for the aspirations of this city. As a New Yorker, I just love this place. And look, I could have stayed on the sidelines, supported another candidate, but I think in our own way, we all have to be in it. And I think that's what all the candidates are gonna be about. And so I'm very glad to be here. By the way, the three guys who are running, they are in suits and ties. They look very handsome and very respectful. They have good shoes on. Madam Speaker, I look like I just came out of a petitioning time bomb. So it's great to be with all of you. Let's win this race.
Thank you. Senator Ramos?
Now that's hard to follow. Well, look, I want to thank you all for coming out this afternoon, to really engage in the future of our democracy. To me, it's about who is the person who is ready to use City Hall as the tool to fight against income inequality, who has the opportunity and the vision to really put forth a workforce development and real housing of truly affordable opportunities and prevailing wages. It's about who is going to increase opportunity through education and through real public safety for New Yorkers. You can either choose the person who has been working her whole life to make New York City affordable, or you can choose the architect of Tier 6, or the person who has given lots of fancy tax abatements to big real estate developers who think they're going to have us wait for trickle-down affordable housing. Trickle-down nothing. We cannot believe the words that are coming from their mouths, and we know that they are hitting their ceiling, and that over the next few months, we'll be able to make our case and make sure that working class New Yorkers elect a working class champion who knows New York inside and out and who's ready to deliver on day one for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Myrie?
Back in 2018, when the Republicans controlled the state Senate, when there was a faction of rogue Democrats called the IDC, preventing every single piece of progressive legislation from making its way through, there were few brave souls that stood up to that system. WFP was in that group. Stood up. Some of the assembly members and electeds here joined and said, New Yorkers are not going to tolerate this. You get elected as a Democrat, you better fight for our issues. We are facing such a moment right now. In fact, the architect of the IDC is in this race. We have the moment to demonstrate that we can stand up and fight again. Look at what happened since 2018. Look at our democracy that has been protected. Look at the tenant protections that were passed, the Reproductive Health Act, what we've done on climate. That was all because you stood up. We are at that juncture yet again, and I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you so we can get it done from City Hall. Thank you, everybody.
I would like to thank you all so much. Former Comptroller Scott Stringer.
Thank you, Dr. Greer.
Thank you.
Big round of applause for Dr. Greer.
State Senator Jessica Ramos and State Senator Zellnor Myrie. And so now I'm going to invite our 4 additional candidates to come to the stage, and we're going to have a nice little lightning round before you all have your interview with the rest of the group. So as they pull out the chairs, if you all could just stay put, we'll just have like 2 minutes of some coordination.
Look at you guys, so handsome.
This is the sneaker panel. The
Well,
comfy panel.
We're a little, Zohran, a little too fancy lately. I mean, come on.
I can do it. Yes. I think it's
Why have things changed? No speaker.
or you want to? Okay. Yes. Where all the lights are. This is great. How are we doing on time? Perfection. Okay, I would like to welcome to the stage former Assemblyman Michael Blake, our current Speaker of City Council, Madam Adrienne Adams. And I think you already know this, but we always say no relation, right? State Legislator Zohran Mamdani. And our current Comptroller, Brad Lander. So, this is a lightning round, and I want to make sure you all understand. I'll start with you, Senator Myrie, and we'll go down the list. These are rapid-fire questions. It's 7 of you all, so we're going to get through this. They're yes, no's, this or that's, New York City fun facts, etc. This is straight yes or no. We'll see how they can follow directions. Yes or no. First question. Will you keep Jessica Tisch as police commissioner? Now, those of you who have come on FAQ NYC, you've already gotten this question. So this is a yes or no question. Will you keep Jessica Tisch as police commissioner? Rapid.
Yes.
No.
Under consideration.
No.
We'll consider.
We'll consider.
Yes.
Okay. Senator Ramos, I'm going to start with you. Yes or no? The New York State Legislature is currently proposing a direct cash assistance program called the Working Families Tax Credit. If passed, families could receive up to $1,600 per child. Do you support the Working Families Tax Credit? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I like those answers. Those are good numbers, as my tax guy says. Former Comptroller Scott Stringer, we'll start with you. Yes or no? Do you support the 2nd Avenue subway extension, even if it means diverting resources from other subway upgrades?
I support the expansion, but especially it's going to go
Scott.
to El Barrio. Oh, right.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Madam?
Can't divert the funds.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't think we have to divert the funds to do it.
Okay.
No, would love the extension, but not at the cost of the other outer borough projects.
Gotcha.
Yes.
No, not diverting funds.
Okay. Assemblymember Blake, I'll start with you. This is for all of you. In 2 words, your boldest new idea. 2 words. Your boldest new idea. 3, tops.
End credit scores.
Okay. All right. Madam Speaker?
Basic income.
Okay. Assembly member?
Freeze the rent.
You got 3. I'll give you 3.
Ending street homelessness.
Okay.
Universal after school.
Okay.
I would say, well, universal child care.
Okay.
Mitchell-Lama 2.0.
All right. Those are all solid. Madam Speaker, I'm starting with you. One policy issue not covered enough.
Older adult care.
Where's Crystal Hudson? I was about to say. Zohran?
Our bus system.
Bus system. Okay.
Disability rights.
Disability rights. Question one more time. One policy issue not covered enough.
Career paths for young black men.
Okay. Senator?
Small business opportunities for people of color.
Okay.
Equal education for the kids who are struggling economically.
Okay. Assembly member?
Local median income, because AMI does not work for us.
Okay. All right. Zohran, I'm going to start with you. Best New York City mayor ever.
Starting with me?
Fiorella LaGuardia.
Okay. Brad?
Fiorella LaGuardia 2.0.
Absolutely LaGuardia.
Okay.
Yeah, LaGuardia. Everybody loves LaGuardia.
I'm bold. LaGuardia.
Right.
LaGuardia.
LaGuardia? Madam Speaker?
Come on, you from Queens.
After 4 years, I hope you'll say me.
Oh, that was good.
Okay. Okay. Comptroller, best subway line.
The F train goes from my house to Coney Island. So.
Okay. F train,
I'm going to go with the 4.
the 4. Okay. No judging.
The International Express, the 7 line, baby.
Okay. Scott?
2 train.
Okay.
The D train.
The D train. Okay.
From South Jamaica to Lower Manhattan, it's got to be the E train end to end. That's my commute.
Zohran?
It's got to be the Never train, the N.
Oh, goodness. The never and the rarely?
Never and rarely, until we modernize the signals in the capital budget.
Okay. We'll get to that in the second panel. And last question for all of you. I'll start with you, Senator Myrie. Best New York City museum.
I mean, we are in Brooklyn, so I gotta go with the Brooklyn Museum. I gotta
Okay.
go with Brooklyn Museum.
The New York Historical Society for me.
Okay.
Museum of the City of New York.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with Historical Society.
Okay.
I have a lot of grandchildren that love the Museum of Natural History.
The New York City subway system.
Okay.
And I don't say that just because it's crumbling infrastructure, but also because the point of a museum is public art, and there's beautiful public art all across our stations.
Okay.
Lower East Side Tenement Museum.
He's only saying that because I'm on the board of the Tenement Museum.
You want a candidate that does their homework, don't you?
So here's the deal. I want to thank all 7 of our candidates for being here. The great thing is, we are hopefully looking at the next mayor of New York City. And there are a lot of great ideas, and that I trust the 7 of these individuals will work together to put forth the best plan, whomever wins. And I also just want to thank you all for coming here on a beautiful Saturday to hear from Senator Myrie, Senator Ramos, and former Comptroller Scott Stringer. So can we thank the 3 of them for joining us? And so we're going to do a little bit of a pivot. You all are released to this beautiful day. And if you all can come a little closer, good to see you. I'm so sorry I missed you last week. We'll have another time. Oh, thank you, thank you. And look at this. As we get everyone settled, so we had the sneaker panel, and now this is the dressier panel, so you know I'm ready. Well, I was going to put on my shoes, and they all had on sneakers, so I was like, wait, no. Yes, I got a second pair of shoes.
That's amazing.
How are you guys doing?
Can we do one picture? Let's take just one picture with all the candidates. Can we take one picture?
Where are we? Okay. We're back. That was great. So, quick costume change. So now we're joined by New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams. And so we're in a slightly different order, which is totally fine. But Speaker Adams leads the first women majority city council. Yep. Made history as New York City's first black speaker. Speaker Adams was first elected to the New York City Council in 2017 and is also the first woman to represent District 28, which includes the neighborhoods of Jamaica, Richmond Hill, Rockdale Village, and South Ozone Park. I'm sure there's some Queens people here. And Speaker Adams has ensured that the 51-member body of the New York City Council serves as a real counterweight to the executive branch and negotiates the city's $113 billion budget. Next, we're joined by New York State Assembly member Zohran Mamdani. We always joke, only in New York do you have 2 candidates whose initials are ZM. Assemblymember Mamdani represents the 36th district in Albany, which includes Astoria and Long Island City. Assemblymember Mamdani brings his fight for working people to the New York State Assembly, perhaps notably when he launched a 15-day hunger strike alongside New York City's taxi workers and won millions of dollars in debt relief. Assemblymember Mamdani is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. Please also join me in welcoming current New York City Comptroller Brad Lander. Comptroller Lander has been a longtime public servant and co-founded the New York City Council's Progressive Caucus. First elected to City Council in 2009, Comptroller Lander ushered in major progressive reforms to New York City, including paid sick days, and brought participatory budgeting to New York City. He now oversees New York's $285 billion pension fund and holds the administration accountable in his citywide role. And last but not least, we're joined by former New York State Assemblymember Michael Blake. Michael Blake was first elected to the State Assembly in 2014, representing the 79th District in the Bronx. He previously served as a senior aide to former President Barack Obama and served as vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. I'd like to thank all four of you for joining me and your short bios, and you all can look at their websites for a more detailed description of all the contributions they've made to this city. So let's just get to it. We're going to have three main questions. We're going to have hopefully time for a few questions from the audience, and then you all will have time for some closing statements. So I'll start with you. I'm used to calling everyone by their first names, but I'll be formal. Assemblymember Blake. 1 in 4 New Yorkers can't afford basic essentials. The rate of people experiencing poverty in New York City is double the national average. Why should working class New Yorkers trust you to lead at this moment? And if you all will notice, you have 2 minutes to answer each question.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I am running because we have to help New Yorkers make and keep more money in your pocket, because we have to lower our expenses, and it's simply too expensive in New York City. We can do this as someone who, my mom was homeless in Jamaica. We sold dinners to make sure we kept our house in the Bronx. You can focus on having a local median income, because AMI simply does not work. It doesn't make sense that we have Westchester County and other counties impacting our expenses here. We can do this by having universal child care to make sure that our families actually have that expense covered for them. We can do this by ensuring that every time DC and Trump and Elon and Eric Adams are trying to cut your funds, if DC is trying to cut our funds, we should not be sending our taxes to DC. You can take the steps by actually having true affordable housing to address the concerns, in which credit scores are an institutionally racist policy that are blocking out black and brown families that have access to a home. When you take those steps, you are fundamentally able to ensure that we're able to address our costs in a very real manner. And whenever you hear the nonsense of Eric Adams saying, well, we can't afford these things, and when he tries to scapegoat our immigrant communities in particular, you have to ask yourself, we have a $113 billion budget. We could find priorities to make sure our families have the food to eat, the shelter that they have, and make sure you can live out your dreams. To do this, it's about making sure we go a step further when it comes to those essentials. Making sure that you have free Metro cards for anyone that's going to CUNY. Make sure you have the opportunities to actually have truly a Mitchell-Lama 2.0 for middle class housing. And then reimagine what's happening for our kids in our schools, in which I do believe every kid should have civics, financial literacy, and mental health before they graduate. If you take those steps, then you're able to put more money in your pocket with a guaranteed income at a living wage, not just minimum wage, while also ensuring you're reducing the cost when it comes to housing accordingly. That's the seriousness that you can have. Lastly, when I led the effort around My Brother's Keeper, as well as the minority business programs, when you help our communities to have more jobs and higher wages, things are better for all of us. So it's not just about changing the game for today, it's about changing the game for tomorrow, and that's how we help our New Yorkers who are going through the challenges right now.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, why should working class New Yorkers trust you to lead at this moment?
Thank you very much for the question, and good afternoon again, everybody. It's great to be here. Great to be here with this panel. Can I just say, this is my first one. So for the last 3 years, I've been fighting back against a mayor that is trying to sell out all of us in this room. A mayor that has made a deal that is done in the shadows, but is harming everybody in this room. And so in fighting this mayor, we have come against budgets that have sought to take away from the working class people of the city of New York And under my leadership, this amazing city council, led by a majority of women, the most diverse council that this city has ever seen, we have taken the reign as strong women, and we have pushed this mayor and this administration to do the right thing. We have had to come back and restore that which has been taken away from our children, from our mothers, from our families, from our immigrant communities. All of these, from our seniors, we have come back and we have fought. And so I am already doing the work. We know that the budget is here. We will be fighting again for the people of the city of New York. As mayor, I will continue to expand on the great work that I've already started with a great city council that, again, is doing the work. I'm looking forward to expanding on that work and moving forward in this budget to do the right thing for the people of the city of New York. I keep on saying that I cannot lead a council that is a council of restoration. That can't be our legacy. We have to be a council that builds for the people of the city of New York, that builds on resources, that builds on income, that builds on the things that we should already have had in underserved communities. We have to get the equity that we so rightly deserve for every single New Yorker.
Thank you. Controller?
Thank you, Dr. Greer. Thank you to the Working Families Party, which I'm proud to have been a member of since 1998. Thank you to The Nation magazine, which I've been reading since I was in high school. I'm New York City Controller Brad Lander, and I'm proud to be here today. Working class New Yorkers know they can trust me because of the battles that we have fought and won and implemented together with the Working Families Party, as Dr. Greer said. We won paid sick days for all New Yorkers, which they did not have before. Together with retail and fast food workers, we ended abusive scheduling with a fair work week policy that means you get advance notice of your schedule and a pathway to a full-time job. Together with Uber and Lyft drivers, we made this the first city in the country to guarantee living wage for for-hire drivers. Then we went on and did the same together with deliveristas. Together with the Freelancers Union, we passed the boldest legislation in the country to make sure you don't get stiffed out of money that you have earned. You get paid on time and in full. And then we went back and worked again with fast food workers to end at-will employment so they can't be fired with no reason at all. When I'm mayor, we will do that for all workers. We'll end at-will employment in New York City so people have secure jobs. And when Donald Trump destroys the National Labor Relations Board, workers here will know their city still has their back. In the city council, I passed the largest affordable housing rezoning, 8,000 new homes, 3,000 of them genuinely affordable to low-income and working-class families. I helped lead the integration of the middle schools of District 15. That is the kind of courageous leadership that I will bring to City Hall to end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness, to build 500,000 new homes, including homeownership and affordable rentals for working-class New Yorkers. I'll create a mayor's office of workers' rights so we can use all our tools: contracting, procurement, franchises, concessions, economic development, land use, all of it, to have the backs of working-class New Yorkers so we can all have a safer, a more affordable, and a better run New York City. Thank you.
Thank you. And why should working class New Yorkers trust you to lead at this moment?
Thank you so much for the question. Thank you for hosting this panel. It is such a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you. My name is Zohran Mamdani. And before I begin, I just want to ask a question to the crowd. Can you raise your hand if you think life in New York City is too expensive? Now, I ask this question because the statistics that are borne out and the ones that you mentioned, 1 in 4 New Yorkers are in poverty, 500,000 children go to sleep every night in our city hungry. A majority of New Yorkers hand over more than 50% of their paycheck every month to a landlord or a mortgage lender. And yet, these statistics do not capture the breadth of this affordability crisis, one that is felt by each and every New Yorker. And when we launched this campaign on October 23rd, we did so with a North Star of a relentless focus on an economic agenda, to deliver a campaign that was focused on one thing: making this city more affordable for the working class that has built it, that keeps it running, and is being priced out of it every single day. And that has been the same North Star that I've had while I've served in the New York State Assembly. It is the North Star that led me to go on a 15-day hunger strike alongside New York City taxi workers who had been betrayed by a city that sold them a promise into the middle class, only to pull out the rug from under them and give them more than $500,000 in an average debt that they were owing to the same lenders that were kicked out of the housing market in 2008. And that was a hunger strike we broke on November 3rd, 2021, and we have since won more than $450 million in debt relief for those drivers. It is that same focus that led me to launch the Fix the MTA campaign, which I won't tell you why we named it that. And it was a campaign that won more than $100 million in increased subway and bus service, a reduction in the fare hike, and the first of its kind free bus pilot that I won alongside the incredible leadership of Assembly members Joanne Simon, Marcella Matenas, State Senator Jabari Brisport, who are all here today, and finally giving affordability back to New Yorkers in a time when 1 in 5 cannot afford a Metro card. And this is the state of affairs that we are in, and this is why we have put forward a campaign with a politics that requires no translation. We are going to freeze the rent for more than 2 million New Yorkers. We are going to make the slowest buses in the country fast and free and a model for this nation. And we are going to build on the promise of universal childcare, the glimpse of 3K, and finally deliver it to every single child, whether they are 6 weeks or 5 years of age. And I cannot wait to do it with each and every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I just want to remind you all, please, if you have questions, Sasha's walking around with note cards. Don't be shy. We'll try and get to as many as we can. I'll start the second set with you, Speaker Adams, and you all can feel free to stand, but if you'd like to sit, please. How will you help New York City stand up to Donald Trump? Point blank.
You can't be silent with this guy. I keep on saying he whose name can't be said. I call him Felon 47. So, you know, I've stood up to bullies before. I am not afraid of Donald Trump. New York is going to have a target on its back regardless of who is the mayor of the city. So whoever that person is has to be fearless in the face of the reign of Donald Trump. We have seen this chaos, but I tell you what else we've seen. We've been through this stuff before. So as mayor, I will continue to speak up and speak out against Donald Trump. He is the bully of all bullies, but I tell you what, New Yorkers are strong. I will protect that strength. I will be that voice of strength. I will listen to your voices as mayor. Together, we are stronger than Donald Trump. No matter what he does, he can't bully New York. We're the greatest city in the world. And we all know that. We are better than his tactics. We are better than his words. We are better than his influence. We are better than his doge, whatever that is. So we are going to be united around the issue of Donald Trump. We don't have to worry about owing any favors to him because we are stronger. We are not cowards. New Yorkers speak up and New Yorkers fight back. So Donald Trump, I hope you got your boxing gloves on because I got mine on.
Thank you. Comptroller?
So first, we're going to get rid of a mayor who sold us out to Donald Trump for a pardon. And we are sure not going to elect a mayor who's been running for how many days now and hasn't found the time to say one critical word of Donald Trump. And that's what we mean when we say dream. Don't rank Eric or Andrew for mayor. I will be a mayor who stands up for this city's values, for its immigrant neighbors, for its families, for its budget. That's what I did the day that we found Elon Musk stole $80 million from the people of this city. It was my office who called it out, who rang the alarm bell, who forced the law department into court. And we're going to get that $80 million back because that's our money and the rule of law still applies. Another thing I did in advance when Governor Hochul put congestion pricing on pause, and it was a risk of not going into place before Trump became president, I convened the coalition of lawyers and advocates that brought 2 lawsuits that got it off pause. So now we'll have the $15 billion to invest in our subways and have that policy here. And you can see him cringing because he can't do thing one about it. It is staying in place. Just yesterday, he caved and said, oh, yeah, we'll give you another month. We're going to keep that policy. I mentioned before the Secure Jobs Act. That's something that New York City can do by saying employers can only fire people when they have a good reason. when Trump's National Labor Relations Board won't show up for workers when they get fired for organizing, the city will be able legally to have their backs. We're doing it for fast food workers. We can do it for every single worker in New York City. And then finally, I will use City Hall, not just, I'll be out in the streets with you as I was last weekend for that march, but I'm gonna use the convening power of City Hall. The mayor already should have convened university presidents from this city in City Hall to say, here's how we're gonna stand up together. We're not gonna cave like Columbia did. We're gonna have the backs of academic freedom and professors. So a city hall that will stand up to Donald Trump isn't just what the mayor does by him or herself, it's how we organize New Yorkers to stand up together for those values.
Thank you. Assemblymember, how will you stand up to Donald Trump?
You know, I am committed to running against a New Yorker who has cut Medicaid and stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA, who has claimed to fight for the working class while showering his rich donors with tax breaks, and who has been credibly accused by numerous women of sexual harassment, women that he has then hounded. And I'm not just speaking about Andrew Cuomo, I'm also speaking about Donald Trump. And it is incumbent upon all of us to turn the page on this failed leadership. And standing up to Donald Trump, what it necessitates is being ready to fight. Because what we are missing right now in our party is a willingness to have this fight. We are understanding power as something that is technical when it's also something that is won and lost every single day. And we are allowing narratives to be set forth about fraud and wastefulness when really what they are is a billionaire smash and grab on the working class of New York City and across this country. And I will be using what has been described as the second largest bully pulpit in America to make that clear. Because what we've seen is Eric Adams is opting for cowardice and collaboration has gotten us nowhere. We have been told that this would be more effective for New York City, more protective of New York City. We've had $80 million stolen out of our bank account. We've had New Yorkers dragged and disappeared from their apartment building lobby. And we have had a disgraced former governor who it took 72 hours to issue any kind of statement on that detention of Mahmoud Khalil, only to then walk it back 24 hours after that. We deserve a mayor who explicitly and proudly stands up for keeping families together across our city, for making sure that the First Amendment is something that is respected, and from taking a page from neighbors like Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico, who has shown what can be won when you're willing to fight. Because that's what New York City needs to be. It needs to be a model for the style of politics we could have, not a replica of the same darkness that is taking hold in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Assemblymember, how will you stand up to Donald Trump?
Everybody in this room is ready for Democrats to fight back against the nonsense of D.C., and we can't do that with Vice President Eric Adams in office. Let's be very clear that, to your question, when I was elected as vice chair of the DNC, that was when Trump won the first time, and I'm the only person in this race who could tell you that I've beaten Donald Trump when we had the chance and made sure we had an election in terms of a new Democratic president. You want to push back against a bully, you check them in their face. Every time they want to cut funding to us, don't send money back to DC. Reject the nonsense where ICE has no business in our schools and our places of worship and our community centers. Make it a point that you collaborate with our incredible lawyers and our exceptional AG and Tish James, and saying very simply that every time they come for us, we will check them with lawsuits. If you did not see just today, they have now stated that any law firm that tries to talk about them, they'll look after an executive action against them. You have to ask yourself, who is ready immediately to check the absolute fascist dictator in Donald Trump out of the gate? It also means we got to work with our federal partners. And when Hakeem Jeffries becomes Speaker Jeffries, that you have to have people that are standing up and fighting with him. Why is that relevant here in this conversation? Because at the end of the day, you have a bully who does not give a damn about us. That extends not just to him, but it extends also to Andrew Cuomo. It extends to Eric Adams and all the people that are not actually trying to fight for you, who are only trying to focus on one thing. Eric is trying to stay out of jail. Andrew's trying to redeem his name. Don't give either one of them that, as Andrew Cuomo is no different than Donald Trump, is no different than Eric Adams. You fight back by you cutting them off at the knees and being very direct about that. You can hear the Bronx in me coming out right now, because that is what you have to do. People are sick and tired of us trying to play cute with foolishness. You have to check it and be very clear about this, and that is how you win.
Thank you. Control, I'm going to start with you for this last question before we get to the audience questions. Tell us about your first 100 days. How will working class New Yorkers know you've got their backs as soon as you get into office?
So I'm tempted to tell you about how you're going to immediately see fewer mentally ill folks sleeping on the streets of our city or our subway grates, which you will, or how the housing emergency I'm going to declare will mean tenants actually have the lawyers they're supposed to have in housing court to be protected from eviction, and how we're getting started on all that affordable housing. But what I'm actually going to tell you about is how you'll start to have trust in your city government again, because that is what the first 100 days need to be about. New Yorkers are ready to replace this corrupt chaos agent that we have and restore integrity and decent leadership. So I've got a plan for making the Conflicts of Interest Board independent. And I'm going to bring my top appointees to the City Council for advice and consent so New Yorkers can see that the people running city agencies are first rate, have integrity, have ethics policies in place, know what outcomes they are going after, the opposite of what Donald Trump is doing, wrecking the federal government. That's what we're going to do right here in New York City with the best leaders running our agencies and as deputy mayors, with the outcomes developed through a transition process, and folks know where they go see them on the city's website, with a level of trust and focus. And I'm not just talking about top leaders in City Hall. We got 300,000 municipal employees, 75,000 of them teachers and social workers and nurses and school crossing guards and people who keep this city safe and running every single day. And that set of people, if you're going to be a teacher, will know you're on a path to be able to get a free CUNY education because we need you in the classroom. Or if you continue to work for the city, my Homes for City Workers program means you'll be able to double your purchasing power to buy a home in the 5 boroughs. What we're going to do is rebuild the sense of what's possible with New York City government, with a level of integrity, with a focus on outcomes, with a commitment to city workers that matches the values of New York City. So when I say a safer, more affordable, more livable, and better run city, we've got the people in place to do it.
Thank you. Tell us about your first 100 days.
You know, when we have campaign events, I quiz the crowd as to our platform. I say that we're running to freeze the rent. I say we're running to make buses fast and free, to deliver universal child care, because as important as one person is, a platform is more important. And I want to be held accountable by New Yorkers when they vote for me on June 24th to make it very clear that this is something that has to be delivered. And so in those first 100 days, I'm going to get to work on implementing that vision, because an idea is only as good as your delivery of it. And what we are going to do first is the mayor has exclusive appointing authority to the Rent Guidelines Board, which sets the rents for more than 2 million New Yorkers who have a median household income of $60,000. We are going to appoint members of that board that will vote in accordance with reality. And I say reality because the board itself found last year in its own study that landlords of rent-stabilized units saw their incomes going up at twice the rate of their expenses. Meanwhile, tenants are on the brink of being priced out of their home. That is something we can start to deliver in those first 100 days. I'm going to put together an agenda for Albany, because any agenda of ambition in New York City requires the partnership of Albany. And to build on the successes we've seen firsthand, to start to expand on a pilot program to make buses free, to get from 3K and the lies that Eric Adams has told us, where he would give every family a seat, not mentioning giving families in Astoria a seat in Bed-Stuy, and actually live up to the spirit of that commitment and extend it into 2K, extend it into children as young as 6 weeks. And finally, we're going to see a mayor that reflects the values of this city. You know, Tom Homan, the border czar, the last time he was with Eric Adams, they were on a couch on Fox and Friends talking about how they're going to work together. The last time I saw Tom Homan was when I was shouting at him in the halls of Albany. And what I said to him there are the questions that are top of mind for every New Yorker, which is how many more New Yorkers are you going to detain? Do you believe in the First Amendment? What are the charges you're holding Mahmoud Khalil on? These are the questions we have to ask Trump administration officials, because if we are not fighting, then we are already surrendering, and we're going to accomplish both of those things in tandem together.
Thank you. And just so you know, during our first panel, I already gave them a pop quiz, which they passed in flying colors. What is the day of the primary? It's June. There we go.
I should add that in.
Your first 100 days.
We will declare an emergency on the true cost of living, which Eric Adams has not implemented. You all voted on this in the last city charter revision, and it actually has not been implemented at all. And you have to ask yourself why. It's because he's been so focused about staying out of jail rather than doing his job. We would focus on establishing local median income instead of AMI, which other cities and states are doing right now, so that we can actually understand the expenses that are proportional to your community. We would be very focused on addressing credit scores, because there is no good reason why a credit score is being utilized when it comes to your rent and home ownership application. We would focus in collaborating with our state partners in Albany around a reimagination on education, because we got to go back to how it used to be back in the day where we had Schoolhouse Rock and have civics, financial literacy, and mental health. But simultaneously, we can go further. We have to address property tax reform. We have to say very clearly that we support and are dedicated around mental health professionals addressing the mental health crisis, with overdose prevention centers and opioid settlement funds coming down to our communities to actually address it, and not have cops engaging when it comes to mental health, because a cop is not prepared to do that in any regard, in any way. It's about embracing a new imagination around immigration, because I will tell you, as a son of immigrants, immigration is for the Latino community, the Caribbean community, the African community, the Asian community. We are all in this together. And that means we have to absolutely push back against the absolute racist policies that are coming out of DC and impacting us right now. And so, in the first 100 days, it is a fundamental reason why I'm running in this race. We are seeing every single day the ramifications of when DC is not working for us. And so we have to mobilize around the true cost of living and reducing our expenses, actually making sure we reimagine education, have true legal protection so our communities are safe and secure, and then go a step further in how we actually reimagine all of this here. I do think we need to have a focus around guaranteed income and living wage so people have more money in their pockets. And I also do think that we need to rescind incentives for developers that are actually not doing the right thing for us. Why on earth do we continue to help someone make money if they're not helping us make money and keep money in our pockets in the first place?
Thank you. Speaker Adams, tell us about your first 100 days.
The first 100 days. The first 100 days will not be spent on cronyism and bringing in my friends that I've known to bring in their scandal with them, carrying that weight of the baggage for the people of New York to carry on their backs as well. It will be in the assembly of a credible team, and my colleague mentioned it, you were in my head, but I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say anyway. I will have as mayor, a credible team, just like I have had as Speaker of the City Council, in bringing in those that have the know-how already. They will know as I will know. First day, I don't need a manual, I don't need a handbook, I don't need a description on what to do in City Hall. I've been walking up those steps for almost a decade. And now as the leader of the City Council, I have overseen 3 budgets, now getting ready to start the 4th. As the Speaker, negotiated those budgets positively, finally, for the people of the city of New York. So the team that comes in with me will be like the team that came in with me in City Hall 4 years ago. A Crystal Hudson, who has experience with older adult care. A Rita Joseph, who is chair of education, who comes in with education experience. And Althea Stevens, I said Gibson, hi. Althea Stevens, she's good too, right? Who comes in with, Althea Stevens, who comes in with the experience of youth and has nothing but the youth on her heart and mind when she goes into those oversight hearings. Gail Brewer, who oversees everything. I call her the sage of the city council. And so my administration will come in with that knowledge, that know-how. They will not need a manual, as your mayor will need no manual. We will already have the experience, have the know-how, have the people behind us to bring the strength to you, the people of the city of New York. And as any mayor knows, the first 100 days have everything to do with the budget. And so my focus will be on the budget, prioritizing the people in that budget for a change, not thinking about other things or plans or whatever, pie in the sky. It will be about the people, the needs of the people, the education, the subsidies that working families need to make sure that their children are taken care of, and so that mothers can go back to work, fathers can go back to work, and we can have those incomes in our households once again. We will take a look at mental health services. Under my leadership, we worked out a mental health roadmap. We're bringing in community partnerships. All of those things must be fortified, and of course, affordable housing. Let's get that done. In order to do it, we got to build it so that these rates can come down. We have to make it happen so that people come back to the city instead of leaving our city.
Thank you. Sasha? So now we're going to take one or two questions from the audience. You all will have brief answers. Again, audience, I did not choose the questions. Blame Sasha, there she is. I do want to thank Sasha, though, for helping put this together. Oh, and the handwriting's fantastic. Zohran, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll loop back around. Okay. DOH-MH, like many city agencies, could lose hundreds of millions of dollars. What will your approach to public health be if New York City can no longer rely on federal money?
I think it's a great question, and it's one that is not simply specific to DOH-MH, but also the crisis that is staring us down. First, just to say, in a moment where we are preparing for the likelihood of another pandemic, I think it is ridiculous for there to be suggestions that we ban mask wearing in New York State. And I think it's time that we lead with our actual politics and not follow what could have been written by RFK Jr. You know, what this will require, what this fiscal crisis will require, is the courage to raise revenues in New York City and in New York State and ensure that we are not embracing a reality of cuts before we have exhausted every other possibility. This is a state that has a lower corporate tax rate than 10 surrounding states in our region. This is a state that has, a city that has more than $800 million in fines from landlords that have not been collected. This is a city where we have seen studies put out that show if we simply enforced our existing business tax in New York City with more auditors, we would raise another $160 million. And so I say all of these things to say that there are better uses of existing city revenue. There is more revenue that can be collected from existing tax, and there is the need to raise taxes on the most profitable corporations and wealthiest New Yorkers across the state to ensure that we only make these kinds of cuts if we have exhausted every single option. Because right now what we're seeing is a paucity of imagination and ambition to fight for working people before embracing what we are being told is the only option in front of us.
Thank you. Michael?
We have to make sure that we are addressing health in a serious way, in particular when we think about what's happening out here in Brooklyn. So make sure we stand up for SUNY downstate and other places as well. Make sure we find more ways for public health in Staten Island, because that's not been happening in that regard. We have to be more in tune, because H&H and DOMH actually need to collaborate with each other. It doesn't make sense that you have an absurd salary happening at H&H as opposed to actually addressing our public health concerns. To your question, Dr. Greer, when we're serious about this, and to Zohran's point, I agree on this, you have to go further in how we actually increase revenue and reduce costs so that we're not having cuts to our healthcare system. So that means we shouldn't be spending $1.4 billion in overtime at NYPD, which has been an absurd use of funding right now, right? It means that we can go deeper into the expenses that have been happening in the city so we actually help our people. And if there are cuts and when there are cuts because of Donald Trump, then we have to go a step further. And I do believe we need to have a vacant apartment tax on the people that are not living in New York City right now, who are just sitting around and have a place someplace else. Because if you take those steps, you have substantially increased the revenue for the cuts that are coming. But then we have to reimagine what healthcare looks like. Because let's be clear, the governor and others who are talking about a mask ban, it is only going to hurt what's happening for black and brown communities. They're succumbing to the foolishness of Donald Trump again. I'm sick and tired of Democrats succumbing to racists. That is not who we're supposed to be as a people right now. And so at the end of the day, we have to think about, from a public health standpoint, when we think about it from a broader dynamic, equally, not just from the physical, but on mental health and addressing the stigmas that too often are happening in our communities. It is impossible for us to seriously have public safety in our communities and greater thrive in our communities if we're not addressing mental health at the same time. So I'm saying that all to say that when they come for us, Let's actually look within the budget to say, what have they not fixed in the first place? And then tax the individuals who are not here as New Yorkers so that New Yorkers actually have the funding to support our healthcare system the way we need.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, what will your approach to public health be if New York City can no longer rely on federal money?
My approach would be, as some of my colleagues have said, we have got to put those taxes on the highest wage earners. That is not being spoken of, these millionaires that are not being taxed appropriately. We've got to look at that very seriously. People don't want to talk about that anymore, but that's a real thing. People are escaping their fiduciary responsibilities to the city of New York. How much more can we do to those that deserve it? And I always talk about inequity because it's something that from Hollis, Queens, Southeast Queens, Southside, we outside. So I always talk about the inequity and the disparity within our communities that have been neglected. Healthcare, the number one item of neglect in Black and brown communities. Right now, we are stretched, we are pulled. When we take a look at mental health care in the city of New York, that is something also. Rikers Island, the largest facility, the largest mental health facility that we have, that's the best that we can do. 57% of the population on Rikers Island, which must close. 57% of the occupants on Rikers Island have a mental health condition, and they are languishing without a court date. They are languishing in the site of suicide even. How many more deaths do we have to see before we actually notice the severity of the mental health issue on Rikers Island? We are going to do everything that we can as mayor. Once again, those first 100 days are going to be the first magical days of this mayoralty. I'm always asked, what are the priorities? Everything for the people of New York is a priority. Everything, from health to education, mental health, all of it. And all of it is going to be factored and built upon as my work as the leader of the city council. It will be expanded even more because the mayor is the one who holds the purse strings. New Yorkers, we have to release those purse strings.
Thank you. Controller?
First, let's thank Speaker Adams one more time for reconvening the Close Rikers Commission 2.0, putting it back together. The next mayor can close Rikers Island, but it will take mayoral focus and attention, clarity about the fact that 20% of the folks there right now have serious mental illness, and we have gone backwards in this administration, and the next mayor needs to take it forward. New York City essentially invented the field of public health in the United States, actually in our water and sewer system. When we ended cholera and took the lead here in keeping people healthy through a public health approach. Next time you're walking on High Bridge between Washington Heights and the Bronx, that's what that used to be. We're going to have to pick that mantle up again because Donald Trump and RFK Jr. are wrecking public health at the national level. We have had national leaders here like Dr. Mary Bassett and Dr. Tom Frieden. And when I say, you could clap for them, they're both worth it. When I say I'm going to assemble a first-class team of public servants, I mean that the New York City Public Health Commissioner will be the national leader, sadly, that people look to in times of public health crises because that's what New York City has to do in the coming days. Now, that will take finding the resources. So right after Trump got elected, I put a Protecting New York City report together that identifies where all those federal funds are coming in and what can we do to start protecting ourselves and how we need to expand our general reserve by $1 billion to provide some cushion. And while I support a lot of the things that were said here about what we could look at, I'll give you two more. I'd like to do Zohran's call out here. Anyone want to guess how much we paid out last year in claims against the city of New York? $1.5 billion. Two top ones, police misconduct and traffic crashes caused by city drivers. But they don't sit on the books of the agencies that cause them. They just get paid out of the general fund. So we're going to transfer claims to the budgets of the agencies that cause them and say, if you can reduce the claims, You could keep half the savings for new programs that make sense in your agency, but if not, it's got to come out of your budget somewhere else. And finally, remember that SALT tax, state and local tax deduction cap? Trump says he's going to repeal it. That's $19 billion. That could come back to the wealthiest households in New York State, and that is a lot of money that we could make sure can protect our public health infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to start with you, Michael. Almost 1 million kids are in New York City public schools, but it's far from equal. Will you continue to advocate for mayoral control of New York City schools? And who are you considering to serve as chancellor, if so?
Well, I haven't decided on the second one yet, but from a mayoral control standpoint, yes, with major revisions, because we have to actually listen to you on the ground. And that's not happening right now in what's going on. I will go a step further, though. I created the My Brother's Keeper program for New York State because we had to make sure that our black and brown boys had access because they weren't getting the access in the sport that they needed. We also have to address the silent question that people don't want to talk through. The 1 in 8 New York City public school students that are homeless right now. And how do we make sure that we're providing them the support that they consistently need? We need to change what's happening around school lunches because co-locations are the reasons why people can't have the access they need. A kid eating lunch at 10 or 10:30 in the morning and being hungry the rest of the day is inhumane. They can't focus, they can't read, they can't engage in that particular manner. We have to address literacy far greater and earlier, because if we do that, then we help change the game in so many different ways. We have to make sure that we're keeping schools open longer, because at the end of the day, if a kid is going out and they don't have anything to do from 3 to 6 p.m., it is hurting all of us. I will go a step further. When we think about what happened throughout COVID, you had terrible decisions happening from Governor Cuomo, essentially telling people, go figure it out on your own. You can't tell black and brown communities go figure it out on their own when it comes to remote learning when you didn't have a computer, internet, and all the access in the first place. And so when you think about that, it's tied to the previous question around health. How are you transforming education if we're not creating the pathways there? It is the reason why I totally believe that we need to make sure that every kid that graduates automatically can go to CUNY if they so choose, and make sure that the top percentage can go for free, because then you change the paradigms of what's happening for our children. If you take it in that manner, you are actually making sure that our children have a chance to thrive and to win. Right now, people don't feel like they have that chance. They feel like they have policies, they feel like it's too expensive, they feel like they don't actually have hope. That is not what school's supposed to be. This is very personal for me. I was in the book, Savage Inequality, Children in American Schools by Jonathan Kozol, when they talked about how kids did not have a chance out of the South Bronx. I want to show the kids right now that you can grow up at Creston and Burnside, go work in the White House, and then come back home and be mayor of New York City.
Thank you. Speaker Adams, how will you continue to advocate for will you continue to advocate for mayoral control of New York City schools, and who are you considering to serve as chancellor? If so.
I don't have a candidate for chancellor at this point. It's a little too early. As far as mayoral control of the city schools, there have got to be checks and balances when it comes to the mayor, when it comes to mayoral control. And as we see with this current mayor, all of that has gone off the rails. So as an education advocate, as a former education chair of Community Board 12 in Queens, as someone who fought against co-location under another administration that sought to close our schools, primarily in communities of color, that chose to collate our schools, I sat in a lot of audiences and watched our children. I watched black children, brown children come to microphones and address a PEP council, if you will, under the DOE. And those children would beg those individuals to keep their schools open, not to close their schools, because their schools were their mother, their father, their relatives, where they got their meals from. And do you know what that PEP panel did? Back then, they were looking down at their blueberries, blackberries, whatever berries, and they were ignoring our children as our children stood at microphones pleading to them to keep their schools open. This is the type of bureaucracy that we still have within the Department of Education in New York. We've seen some changes, but when I first got into city council and then speaker, I realized that there are so many different barriers to get through in order to truly, truly help our children. Those children who need those free lunches, those children who need those schools to stay open, those children who need digital access, not just the textbooks anymore, because that doesn't cut it. But in communities that are underserved, communities that don't even have libraries, by the way, some still have bookmobiles. How about that? So there is a lot of work to do with our Department of Education. I have promised my grandchildren that I'm going to make sure as mayor that we break through those barriers that I can't seem to break through as a member of the council. We're going to break through those barriers. We got to crash those ceilings, and we got to help our children.
Thank you. Brett?
I'm the son of a public elementary school guidance counselor, K-12 public schools myself. My kids, Marek and Rosa, pre-K to 12 in New York City's public schools. There is no institution more important to me than New York City's public schools and what they have to be for the future of our kids. I support a policy that we call municipal control, where the mayor would appoint the school's chancellor, but bring that chancellor before the council for an advice and consent hearing so the people see you're getting a first-rate educator, and restore the council to a reasonable role as having some oversight and partnership in our public schools, which was lost in the transition to mayoral control for reasons that the speaker outlines. A couple other things on education. Probably the gutsiest campaign I ever was part of was the one I helped lead to integrate the middle schools of District 15. And people said, like, why do that? It's like a third rail issue. But we knew it was not right to have the middle schools of Red Hook and Sunset Park and Park Slope and Carroll Gardens be 11 segregated middle schools. And when we got people together, we were actually able to change the policies. They are dramatically more integrated than they were, and they are delivering a good middle school education for all our kids. We can apply that kind of policy citywide, for example, as we reduce class size. Thanks to our state assembly members and senators, we've got some significant money coming down to New York City. Let's hear it for them, the Assembly Member Simon and Senator Jabari and Assembly Member Midnight and Assembly Member Mamdani. We can use that as an opportunity to focus on reducing segregation and reducing class size at the same time with a deep focus on equity. But it's not going to happen on its own, because where that money flows will not produce equity unless the next chancellor and the next mayor focus like a laser on it, and I will, too soon as well, to identify a particular candidate. And then I've joked a few times, but it really is true. The New Yorkers United for Childcare, they have already won the 2025 mayor's race by getting us all to commit to universal childcare, fulfilling 3K, moving down to 2K, delivering on after school, and they deserve credit for it, and I'll fight to make sure we get it done.
Thank you. Next up.
So I have been a critic of mayoral control while I've been an assembly member, and I would continue to be a critic of it even as the next mayor of this city. And what that means is also establishing a commission to develop out what does this alternative model look like, because I don't think it's one where we just go back to before. I think that there is a critical need to ensure that teachers, parents, students have more of a voice in the education system of our city. And I agree with the other candidates on the stage in that it is too early to make a commitment with regards to the chancellor. What I would say is that we are staring at a crisis in our education system. As others have said, 1 in 8 children in New York City public schools are homeless. This is the 9th consecutive year that that is the case. And we are looking at this at a moment when we have the most segregated school system in America. These are realities that we have known, and yet we have not done enough about them. And I am heartened by pilot programs that we've seen, such as the one that is currently in place at a number of schools in the Bronx called Every Child and Family is Known. It's a program that has connected children who live in a shelter system with a staff member of a New York City public school and requires that they meet once a day in person. And that staff member meets the family of that child once a week in person. And it's been shown to reflect the kind of commitment, the importance of stability in these children's lives that has been robbed from them, that has led to greater attendance in schools, a greater sense of belonging and self-confidence. It's not simply a question of funding, it's also a question of commitment. And what we need to do if we want equalized outcomes is equalized investments and equalized commitments across the board, because we've been able to paper over this inequality through a few well-resourced PTAs in parts of our city, when what we need is a systemic approach to this and an understanding that our children are falling behind and we are instead on the brink of having a public education system be split apart by a charter movement that is looking to privatize as much of education as they can.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. So now I'm going to give you all each a minute or two for closing,
We'll
for
take two.
closing statements. And I'll start with you, Speaker Adams, and we'll loop back around.
Thank you again, Working Families and the nation, for having us today. It has been delightful, actually, to be with all of you today and with all of you today. You know, I'm Adrienne for the people. I'm an around-the-way girl from Hollis. That I'll never get away from that. But I am the first wife, the first mother, the first grandmother to ever lead the city council. I believe that now our city needs a change as never before. I believe that our city needs a woman's touch. I am already walking up those stairs at City Hall pretty much on a daily basis now for almost 1 decade. I came into the council as the first woman ever to lead District 28 in Queens, the first council member, female council member. Came into the speakership almost 4 years ago, the first black woman speaker. And folks were like, how are you going to do this? Everybody has different agendas, different mindsets, different thoughts. The way that I manage and organize the council is to unite with respect and with the belief that everybody is valid. That is the same mindset that I will bring into City Hall, the other side of City Hall, as the first woman mayor of the city of New York. Again, I don't need a manual, I don't need a transcript, I don't need a handbook. I've already been doing the work there. What I intend to do is extend and expand on the guaranteed income program that I just implemented to prevent child poverty and to give money back to those New Yorkers who need it the most. What I intend to do is expand on CUNY Reconnect, the program to bring students with some credits that left CUNY schools. Our pipeline to survival is CUNY. To bring our CUNY students back into school, those that had to leave for one reason or another. We have now seen over 47,000 students come back to CUNY to get their degrees and to become vibrant members of our economy. I will expand on our mental health roadmap that we've already done in the City Council. I will extend on those public safety ideals that deal more with your input than policing our communities. We need internal solutions for our internal problems and issues. As the mayor of the city of New York, I intend to extend and expand on a work well done in this historic city council.
Thank you. And friendly reminder, 1 to 2 minute closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Greer. Thank you, Working Families Party. Thank you to the nation. Thank you to Brick for hosting us. Brick sponsors Celebrate Brooklyn out in Prospect Park, which is like the greatest summer concert series there is. And not for nothing, but this very room is where we had my daughter Rosa's bat mitzvah party. So thank you to Brick for a lot of things. She also interned at the Tenement Museum, which is the second reason that I included that as my favorite museum before. Everybody on this stage and everybody in this room knows that we must get rid of Eric Adams so we don't have a mayor who works for Donald Trump and not for us, and that we can't replace one corrupt chaos agent with another, so we are all on that dream team. Don't rank Eric or Andrew for mayor. And we all want a city that both lives up to our values and stands up for them. And that's why I'm running for mayor. I'm running to deliver a safer, more affordable, and better run city for all New Yorkers. So my top commitment to you is to end street homelessness for folks with serious mental illness in New York City. We do not need to be a city where a couple thousand of our neighbors with serious mental illness sleep on subway platforms and the stoops of our neighborhoods every night. That will be commitment number one, and we will end street homelessness for people with serious mental illness. I got a detailed ready on day one plan to do it. I'll declare a housing emergency that builds 500,000 new homes at a range of incomes, including 50,000 affordable homes to rent or buy on just 4 of the city's 12 municipal golf courses. So the golfers in this room will still have 8, but we'll have 50,000 new homes, a modern-day Mitchell-Lama that was built on land like that at Co-op City and Amalgamated Houses and Penn South. That's the vision we can have. But for all of that, you need a city that is better run. And that's what I have been working to do in the Comptroller's Office, where my audits and pension fund management have saved the city over $2.5 billion. The pension funds are at an all-time high while we've divested fossil fuels and invested in affordable housing and had the backs of workers. I'm building a broad coalition so that together we defeat Andrew Cuomo on June 24th and deliver a safer, more affordable, and better-run city for all New Yorkers. Thank you.
Thank you. Zohran?
I know that our campaign has surprised a lot of people in the last 4.5 months. But I'm here to tell you that we are not running a campaign to surprise. We are not running a campaign to make a statement. We are running this campaign to win this race. And I say that to you as a campaign that has raised more than $7 million from close to 18,000 donors, more donors than every other campaign combined. I say this to you as a campaign that has 7,000 volunteers, is averaging more than 100 every single day joining our team, and a campaign that has been described as the New York Times as the one with the most momentum in this race. And I stand here because we are in a moment when Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo would like New Yorkers to believe that the only choice they have is between the disgraced executive of the present or the disgraced executive of the past. And our campaign offers something else. It offers the future. That is what we are fighting for. A city where working class people won't simply build this city or keep it running, but can afford to live in this city. And we are going to do that because this city and its people are hungry for a different kind of politics. Hungry for a politics that puts working people first. And I am seeing that in neighborhoods far from the ones we would characterize as progressive. Because what we know is while there isn't an ideological majority in these 5 boroughs, a majority of New Yorkers feel left behind by the economic policies of this administration and of politics today. And we are going to deliver them in New York where they can feel our politics and our policies in each of their lives. They can feel it in a rent they can afford. They can feel it in a bus they can take no matter what time of day or how much money they have in their pocket, and in a family they can afford to raise in a city that has been pushing them to live in other states because of the cost of childcare. And I am so excited to build this campaign with each and every one of you because we are at a moment right now when I can think of no better alternative to a real estate developer from Queens Village and Donald Trump than to have a lefty who's representing Astoria put together a vision for this city with and alongside New Yorkers for one that shines a light on the possibilities that we have in our politics and on the desperate need for someone to finally put working people at the heart of what it is that we do. So thank you so much to Dr. Greer for having us. Thank you to the Working Families Party. Thank you to the nation. I don't hold it against you that you rejected my internship application many, many years ago. And I hope to have not simply your consideration in this race, but your support as we finally turn the page on this failed era of leadership here in New York City.
Thank you.
To Dr. Greer, to WFP, to the nation, to everybody in this room, thank you. I'm running because we deserve better. We deserve to have a mayor and a government that you actually can trust, that you feel good about, that you're not wondering if there's going to be another raid or investigation, that you don't have a governor returning where we seem to want to ignore the fact of the thousands of people who died in nursing homes because of his decisions. It is about reminding people that you can have a mayor that you can trust, that you could focus on the true cost of living because it is simply too expensive in New York City, that you should not be working in the city but have to live in New Jersey, Connecticut, or someplace else to make it. That you could say to your children that you can do the right thing and play by the right rules and actually have a chance to thrive. That we will embrace our immigrant communities and not demonize them. That we will actually focus on public housing and public transportation and public health all at the same time. That you can have a vision that is better than what's happening right now. I am running to utilize my experience in the White House and the State House and locally to say that this is the moment that we are in. That for those that are running who have had a chance to change it and do it for the better, why have they not? It is time for us to do something different and have a new generation of leadership. So if you believe that we could focus on the true cost of living, so you actually have a chance to live and to thrive. If you believe we have to have affordable housing that you truly can afford, where you don't have to be rich or poor enough to get access to a home in New York City. If you do believe that we can actually have better education than what's happening right now. My name is Michael Blake, and I ask for your vote to be your mayor. And simply put, you have candidates on this stage, candidates that are before you, that are actually fighting for you. Make it a point that we don't make the mistake of happened 4 years ago, where you have someone who does not care for you, who is not going to fight for you. This is what New York City is. It is showing you what is great when we believe in this as one. My name is Michael Blake, and if you're ready to change the game, you have to change your mayor, and I'm asking for your vote on June 24th. God bless you, everybody.
Thank you. So I want to just thank you all for joining us. I want to thank our panel, number 2. First in my heart, but second on the day. Former Assembly Member Michael Blake, Speaker of City Council Adrienne Adams, no relation, Comptroller Brad Lander, and Assembly Member Zohran Mamdani. I want to thank you all for your great questions, and again to the Working Families Party and the nation and all of the staff who put together this fantastic event. Is there anything else you'd like to say to Jasmine and Anna Maria? Thank you again.
Thank you. Can we please thank our amazing moderator, Dr. Christina Greer? Yes, I love the shoe change between panel 1 and panel 2. Thank you to Brick. Thank you to the nation. Please support Free Press. We have WFP t-shirts outside for a small donation. Thank you for being here. And petitioning's happening now. We got work to do, y'all, and we have to select our next mayor of New York City. Thank you to all the candidates for being here.
And I just want to be clear that what we witnessed today is really the stakes of the fight. There are candidates who have a vision for addressing the challenges that working families are facing every day. Those are the ones we heard from today. And then there are candidates on the other side who come to our communities to ask for our votes so that they can use their power to deliver for their donors, for the rich and the well-connected. And those candidates also share other traits. They are not willing to stand up to Trump, and they are full of scandal and corruption. We don't need to do that. We have incredible leaders vying for your vote. The Working Families Party will be making an endorsement in 2 stages. The first, identifying a slate of candidates who meet the criteria of fighting for working families and being willing to wage a serious fight. And then we will rank them. But believe me, we have incredible, incredible leaders. We saw them today. Speaker Adams, I'm so happy that this was your first forum. Welcome to the field. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to all of you for bringing your voice and your energy to this fight. Thank you.